Hello and welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Owen Campbell. I am the owner of Simplify Motion Physical Therapy in Phoenix, Arizona. And with me, as always, is Dr. Brian Wolf, owner of Evolution Physical Therapy in Connecticut and Long Island. How are we doing today, Brian?
Good, man. What's up? Let's talk about your stories and your successes. I'm excited to share it again. It's fun.
I know, I love it. I love successes.
I know.
Well, so
Full full
so
full
this
transparency. Owen texted me, was like, "This is awesome," and I was like, "This is what we're talking about today." So this is awesome.
All right. So, what we are talking about, the subject of today's conversation is going to be SEO or search engine optimization. So, for those of you who've been in business for a while or just have a passing interest in anything business, SEO is a common acronym. And it is something that means basically getting yourself up on this Google search listing. So, instead of it being on the front page, first few lines of the classifieds back in the 70s and 80s, now we have Google. So it matters how high up you are because people don't want to scroll down and click. Problem is that real estate is pretty well fought over, right? So depending on what part of the market you're in, if I was selling um, plugs, cables, internet cables, whatever, to the entire world, well, those locations, that's SEO. It is hard to get up there because there's so many people doing it, willing to pay a lot of money to so many customers. If you're a basket weaver that only deals with people who have three left hands and two toes, then yeah, that's going to be a little bit more specific of a market, easier to rank in. So
Yeah.
these are the things where SEO is can be a very hard thing for a business, um, depending on different levels. So today we're going to talk a lot about SEO and how I had my first real kind of success in it.
Yeah, man. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think we'll also chat a little bit about where, like, me and Noah were talking about this in the pre-show. Is I think this is a really good thing to start investing in, like taking, like we were talking about how like networking groups are really good and referral partners are really great to have. The ability to put money in so that you're actually like getting that networking and boots on the ground marketing going. This is the first kind of crack when we talk about paid ads and other things. SEO is a really nice thing to invest in because it's a bit of nurturing all the time, and it's just one thing to just jump off your plate because you can find it pretty inexpensive. So we'll talk about kind of your stuff and what you've done, and to me,
Yeah,
we
so
do it as well. So
this is the really nice thing about having Brian as a very good friend and also podcast host is that I'm pretty sure I ran this by you about five or
yeah,
6 months
for
or
sure.
7 or 8 months ago when I started. But essentially, what I did is when I first started, my first investment was when I got my first patient, probably first package I sold. Right, so it was about $1,000. I put it right into BNI. Right. And that's Business Networking International. It is a networking group. It's a referral based group. And for physical therapists, it can actually be a pretty good way to either build out a side hustle or jump right in and start your business. So I had a few people recommend it. Brian was one of them. So I did that. The next thing I spent money on, because I was sitting there, man, I was trying to do website building. I did WordPress. I was trying to figure out the difference between header 2 and header 3 and how it ranked in SEO. And how high was I on the list and what did I have to do? And just, I spent a bunch of time and stress and money and all this stuff on it. And eventually what I did through BNI is I found a web developer who offered a package that he built my website out and he built out my SEO. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I need the website, but sure, whatever. SEO, it's hard. You say you know what you're doing, right? Well, what he did is he built a bunch of different things that we're going to kind of go over and review. But essentially, I pay him about 300 a month, right? And I am in the top 10 ranking for in-home physical therapy Phoenix, Paradise Valley, which is a wealthy suburb around here. Basically, all the terms that I would want to rank in, I am up there past a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time in my neighborhood. I'm already past them, right? So hiring this guy.
Awesome.
And the reason I called Brian this week and why this is a show topic is because I got my first two cold calls this week after he went what they call city pages, and we could talk about that later. After those went live, my rankings jumped up, and I had people just organically call me. Didn't have to meet them at a market. Didn't have to have them know a friend of whatever. They just called me and asked if I would come to their house. So I was pretty jacked up about that.
Yeah, man. I think, listen, a lot of times what happens is when you think about where to spend your money, it's also about you have two different, we've talked about this in the past, like you can either spend money or your time. And so the reality of what SEO does is, kind of a hack for those people who are out there in SEO. Website design and SEO is the thing that you're going to invest money in, but ultimately is what's going to get you more leads organically. And then ultimately, you're going to use all the other things we've talked about, whether it's paid advertising, content creation, referral partners, right? And cold leads. You're going to draw them to your website. So, as a physical therapist in a practice, you really need a good website. Instead of really good SEO, will also it's using the website to draw more people to your website. So, by doing that, you're almost spending that money on there. And we haven't even talked about Google ads, because one of the things we can talk about too is that just automatically increases your SEO. And you can do that. And those are really effective for physical therapists who are in local markets, because ultimately, like I truly believe that physical therapists in general, when you think about it, put yourself in the customer's shoes. If I'm a customer and I'm trying to find a physical therapist, particularly an in-home physical therapist, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go on Instagram and scroll through and wait for my ads to hit me, right? What I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do is I'm going to go on Google and be like, in-home physical therapy. And if
Mm-hmm.
Owen is the top 3 on there, guess what? He's got a shot. That's the key, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here's what's more important. You're finding hot leads. These are not cold leads. These are not leads that are like, when you're scrolling through Instagram and be like, oh, physical therapy. I've always had that kind of like back thing, right? Like these are people who are, hey, I want to get physical therapy now, and I need to get in-home physical therapy, and that's what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's where somebody should talk about Google Ads at some point on
Yeah.
here as well. But SEO optimizes for that, which actually reduces your need for Google ads. So I think that's something when you can be in that SEO, and a lot of the way that SEO works, quite frankly, is just like repetitiveness. So like if you're, again, if you're PhysioWorks LLC and like
Mm-hmm.
you put in blog posting PhysioWorks no comma LLC, right? But in your other names you put PhysioWorks comma LLC, that negatively affects your SEO. This is the way it's been described to me. So like
Yeah.
it's consistencies, it's backlinking, it's like honestly, it's nitty-gritty bullshit. It's stuff that's like
Yeah.
it's stuff that quite frankly, like you don't need to be wasting your time on, right? Like again,
and
and Owen talk about
that's
$300 a month, that's a steal. It's perfect.
That's where I got. That's where I it hit me very early. Is a
Yeah.
hot leads, right?
Yeah.
If my mom is got throws her back out and she is going to Google, she is not going to Instagram.
Yes.
And then the other thing is what you mentioned of the minutia of being important. That a good website, well designed website, can do that. Somebody who can do that can figure out that minutia. That's their job, right?
Yeah.
If you can find a decent price point for that, which this guy, I mean, fair play to him. He didn't have this product until I talked with him and then he created the product.
Yeah.
So these are things where I mean, I'm good at knees and shoulders and backs, man. I'm not good at backlinks, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he did say, and I will say this to anybody thinking about doing this: I like to write, I like to produce content. This is Exhibit A, right?
Yeah.
And he did say that having a podcast and writing articles, right? So blog posts
Yeah.
are really important. So I think that creative bent in me also has helped me, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've maybe written like 15 blog posts, and
Yeah.
they're not anything more than 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So I can crank those out before my kids get up, right?
Yeah.
So it's some work, but my God, that was money well spent, at
Does your
least at this
guy,
point.
does your guy edit your blog posts for you to make sure they're SEO optimized?
No, but his platform does. So WordPress is
Got
what
it.
he goes through, and he part of the package is he bought the plugin, the SEO plugin, and then
Yeah.
that will go through, and then it'll say, okay,
Yeah.
you have too many of these sentences, you didn't say this enough, and then it eventually gets to a point. Then I edit it until it gets to green.
And I mean, that to me, man, is like that's so sick. Like, I mean, again, to your point, like again, I know that there's a lot of people listening to this podcast being like, well, I'll just do it myself, right? But like to your
Mm,
point, like that's not what we do as physical
yeah,
therapists. Like, focus on like if I got to focus on building the business, it's not doing that shit. It's not like
yeah,
let me go do the SEO. And quite frankly, for those of you who aren't like Owen, who don't do a great job at creating content and building content. This is where ChatGPT is huge, because this is where
Mhm.
something where I'm like, if I said, I'm going to do it right now as we're talking, I'm going to say, ChatGPT, write me 1,000 word blog post on the top 3 exercises for back pain, or 3 core exercises for back pain, or 3 transverse abdominis stability exercises for back pain, or give me 3 McKenzie things for back pain, right? Like, it doesn't matter, just write me 3 things, 1,000. And what I can do is I can record 3 videos, bing bang boom, and guess what? I just made a piece of content in 5 minutes that now I
Yeah.
can send to my guy who's going to optimize it for SEO. Boom, done. And in 5 minutes. And you could do that. Like, here's what's crazy. You could spend 5 hours doing that and create 100 pieces of like hundreds and hundreds
Mhm.
of pieces of content for that. So, like, to
Yeah.
me, that's where you can leverage someone in SEO big time. And that's
Well,
where, like,
so
we've done with this. So
my next patient cancellation, or if I have an opening in my schedule next week, my plan is I am going to get a video, and we use StreamYard to kind of stream what we do for our video podcast. And I think YouTube offers this as well, where it will transcript your video.
yeah,
So I am just going to talk. I am going to talk about the knee. I'm going to talk about the shoulder. I'm going to talk about whatever, right? And then I will get the transcript. I will put that in ChatGPT and say, make this pretty, right?
yeah,
And then I will read through all of it, make sure that it's what I would put myself behind, right? Because I already said it, so it's there. And then I'm going to put that into the website where it can do the SEO optimization stuff. And then schedule the posts, right? Make it so that,
yeah,
well, it's blog, so I'll just drop all of them in there. And then I go in and I schedule them in my social media planner, right? And I'm going to time myself and see how long it takes and how many articles I can get so that I can see just me talking, right? You've listened to me talk
yeah,
about ACLs. You've listened to me talk about the low back. You've listened to me talk about headaches way longer than I'm going to spend taking this, right? And I'm just going to
yeah.
be very interested to see how many articles I can pump out for that.
Yeah, and quite frankly, like I said, I just for those people, while we're doing this podcast, I literally just wrote this blog post. Just so you know, that's how fast this ChatGPT works. I literally did, write me the top 3 exercises. Write me, so what you would do to optimize and to leverage what Owen's doing. I go, write me a blog post for the top 3 exercises to decrease hamstring injuries in soccer players, hamstring strains in soccer players. And the second thing I told her to go, optimize it from SEO and make it 1,000 words. And so boom, it just gave me 3, and it gave me, for those people wondering if this is legit, like from healthcare, Nordic hamstring curls was number 1. Number 2 is
Okay.
single leg deadlifts, and number 3 are glute bridges. RDLs, glute bridges, and Nordics. I mean, Owen, I probably would give that, right? Like, that would probably be the
Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
right? And so
And
now what I got to do, I got to, I go,
it's patient facing, so it doesn't have to be
yes,
ultra specific.
no,
And you didn't even take the time to write the videos and talk about it. You
no.
just put it in ChatGPT.
I
So you got to edit it, right?
The
But yeah.
only lie I just said about this ChatGPT is that did not take me 5 minutes. That definitely took me, what, like 2 minutes, not even.
Yeah.
So while we were talking, so I think, again, now what you can do is you can see where you can leverage this, where you can give it to somebody for SEO, but instead you're going to spend another 10, 20, 30 minutes, messing around with this thing to try and get on your website to optimize SEO to blah
Mhm.
blah. Where it's like, now I'm done, boom, content created, and can go off to somebody. So I just think
Yeah.
in general, when you can find, we at Evolution do use an SEO company as well, and we had them also revamp our website. So there's 2 kind of things. You can have people that'll create a great website for you, and then people that'll manage SEO. A lot of times they can be the same company. And so I have found this to be a really good thing to outsource in general. And so I think
Yeah.
it's just not worth your time to mess with. So I think this was really smart, and you got great, from a real smart guy, advice. So,
Okay.
but
All right. All right. All right.
but no, I think, I mean, again, like, and to get full transparency, Owen brought it to me, and I was like, yeah, I think this sounds like a good idea. And sometimes you don't realize how good it is until, like, here's the other part that you didn't talk about, Owen. Again, they're hot leads that came in. Owen went 2 for 2 on having these conversations. So literally, you called him and you said, you go, like, I think I said one of them had Medicare, so as cash based practice, you
Yeah.
refer them out. But the other person sounds like they're pretty solid. So, like, your conversion rate is quite a bit higher. Like, to even get 2 people out of 2 on the phone is
Yeah.
high, right?
Well,
So that's awesome.
and the other one, when you think about what we do as PTs and how we build stable businesses over time, she wanted Medicare. I don't take Medicare, right? But I know 2 people in the city that do. I've worked with them. I can vouch for them. I gave them as a recommendation. I answered all her questions, and then she said at the end, "Well, for my family member, she's going to go through Medicare, but my lord, if I throw my back out, I'm going to you." right?
Yeah, of
Now,
course.
she may have been being nice, but at the same time, that's a positive association that someone who's never met me before got. So, hey, who knows? Maybe she tells a friend, but that helps build word of mouth simply because I came up early on a Google search. So
Yeah,
it's a good thing for newbies to do that they're probably scared of doing. I was terrified of spending this money. Like
yeah,
literally because this guy was cool about doing like a payment plan is the only reason I did it, right? Um, so I just encourage people, if you do have the funds as you're starting your side hustle or early in your business, do it. And if you're far into your business, put the money down right now, man. It
yeah.
definitely helps.
What's interesting, man, is I heard this quote from Steve Harvey, and I'm not going to get it perfect, but he talks about how there's jumps in business. And he
Mhm.
talks about how you're basically he thinks of it like you're jumping off the cliff with a parachute, and
Yep.
he goes, here's the deal. You're gonna have to jump off that cliff at some point. You want to be successful, you gotta jump off that cliff. So Owen just said, he says, I was terrified to spend that money, but he jumped off that cliff. And probably initially, it's not gonna that parachute's not gonna open right off the bat. You're gonna hit
Nope.
rocks, you're gonna hit sticks, you're gonna hit all sorts of stuff, and be like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. But eventually, that parachute will open. And when it
Mhm.
does, that's the difference. Is when people quit, it's like they cut the parachute off and they didn't
Mhm.
realize like what would happen, right? So in this scenario, I think no, I think you crushed it. I think the
Yeah.
idea behind what we have is solid here.
So then tell me then. So my budget, I think it's about what, like it's a fifth of what you would spend. But the funny part is you make way more than five times what I make, right? So the cool part, I kind of want to know from you, like for our more advanced businesses, maybe someone who has one or two PTs, they have a little bit of a war chest, like what, and honestly, hopefully, I'm the person sitting here asking you this question in another few years, but
Yeah.
like how do you level up your SEO? Like I got a website and some guy made some city pages, but like what are some of the next things that you would be looking into?
I think actually the next level is actually work. It depends on the agency working on
Okay.
SEO, but in general, like I think the biggest thing to level up is actually the website. So
Okay.
a lot of times it's not as much. So there's just more. The SEO, right, would be a smaller, easier website. But then
Yeah.
as you keep branding out and out and out and out and keep building more and more clinics, you're going to want to have more individualized SEO overall. And so
Okay.
that's where I think that comes in. I don't think you need to get crazy with it, but it's one of those things where it's like, again, that's what people realize. It's like, a company like mine and Owens are probably paying around the same amount, if not a little bit. We're probably paying a little bit more, just given the size and some more pages. But
Mhm.
that's really it, man. Like you're actually like, so when people think about it, like when we talk about building structure, I just made a video on this for Instagram that if I were to do it over again, I would have built a lot more structure in the beginning of my business. It would have helped, I think,
Mhm.
launch us. And so I think this is a perfect example of Owen built this structure with a really good website and SEO, and this is something that he's not going to need to address in the future, or at least
Yeah.
in the near future, right? Like I think
Yeah.
when you have like what you have going on right now, that'll work and just continue to compound. You know what I mean?
Well, and
Which is great.
I remember actually on one of these podcasts you gave that advice of I wish I set up the systems. So
Yes.
I actually the other thing with this guy is he started with a CRM system with me too. So now I have these. I don't use them because I don't have the volume to really use them that much. I mean, I do, a point or Google review reminder texts, right?
Yeah.
I do appointment reminders. I do things that kind of watch, how many leads and stuff you get. But I can also count that because I'm not as busy, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I know that I'm going to need that framework and someone who knows how to coach me and run on that as it gets bigger when I get bigger. So
Yeah.
it's using that. Like I wish I set up systems earlier that I was like, oh, okay. I did systems all the time in corporate world, right? Like that's all I did was operations and systems. So I'm like, I can do that. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's early returns are good, and I'm hoping that in another 6 months to a year, it's going to be like, dude, I reach through this Zoom call and kiss you, my friend.
Yeah, like I mean, and to give you an idea, I was just looking, like you talked about blogs, right, and content. Like here's where you can leverage like staff more. Whenever our PTs aren't that busy, we ask them to build to write blogs, right, for those kind of things. And we have
Oh yeah,
220 blog posts on here from all of our different therapists, all different links, and we have a company that's doing all different backlinks for that stuff. That's how you can really leverage the heck out of
Oh yeah. So
a
for
lot of
people
stuff.
that don't know, backlinks are when you put your website is linked from another website and you want to aim for that to be a better website. So you can actually cold email people if you want to. You can go to blogs and you can go just search contact and say, I want you to link here. I'm good at talking about golf or whatever, right? Um, or what you can do is what Brian's doing, and you can have it so that you're creating that content and then trying to go out and get links. So I don't know. I know my guy offers purchasing backlinks, right? That's something you could do to kind of fast forward it, but it's not very cheap, right? And you got to make sure that they actually have, you know, relationships with good websites. They're not just, linking you to some dead website. But backlinks are pretty important for the Google algorithm.
Yeah, one of the things you can also do, and I'm trying to look for what the website was. And I'll share it if I can find. Oh, I think Haro it's called,
Okay.
Haro. But
Yeah.
what you can do is it's a website that you can actually it's a lot of like lower reporters for websites that are looking
Okay.
for like, and this is not CNN, MSNBC, Fox. This is not like one of these major political or like sports type of things that like websites
Hmm.
that look for sources, but there's smaller like websites and things that you can actually look at, and they'll send you like, hey, I'm looking for somebody, I'm looking for a physical therapist who's got 3 exercises to help with back pain for runners, and here are the
Hmm.
answers. And what you could do is that you literally, now they send out, and there's like, and there's crazy ones, there's all sorts of funny ones that are like, from for anything from sex stuff to like,
Hmm.
healthcare to beauty products to, it's anything that you could think of a magazine or a website publishing. So you got to be
Hmm.
prepared for some wild stuff coming out. But essentially, like every I think it's 3 times a day, they'll send you an email with 20 different topics. And if you have, again, like I've done fitness stuff, and I've done fitness stuff, and I've done physical therapy stuff, and that's really good free backlinks. So, like
Yeah.
again, if you've got the time, like that's where I would spend your time, is what Owen just talked about, is content creation, and then you can send that to an SEO company, because if someone does pick it up, I've had some reporters pick some stuff up.
Mhm.
I'm not as into it anymore, just because like I don't have the time to be sifting through 20 posts every single time. And then
Mhm.
again, you do write quite a bit of content that doesn't get picked up. So like I just got to the point where I didn't do it anymore. But again, there's all sorts of ones. Like I just researched like on Google, get connected with reporters for free online. And
Yeah.
you'll find companies, because what's happened is this is a smart business, because quoted.com is there, just reach out .io. So like Muckrake, there's a lot of these different things where like you can reach out, and they'll reach out to you. Reporterexchange.com. So I don't know all these, like I
Uh,
said, Haro
they
is the one.
literally they
Yeah.
literally call it muckraker. That was such a
Yes, yeah, yeah. Oh,
negative
yeah.
term.
Well,
All
well, there you go. Exactly. I
right.
mean, well, again, don't get at me for politics. I'm just helping with SEO. It's just for
That's
SEO
funny.
stuff. But Haro is
Yeah.
the one that I've used in the past, and it's in fact it is. It's quoted.com. Help. It stands for help a reporter out. Right. Haro.
Yeah.
So again,
Oh, I
so
like
like,
it. Yeah. There you
right.
go.
So like that's the idea. So the idea is that these reporters are looking for experts like us to
Mhm.
comment on physical therapy stuff. So that's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And what they get out of it is it's great. They get free experts, and we get free exposure. So that's
Yeah.
the synergy that you get. So
Nice. Well, so that I think is a pretty good a few good tips that we can get out of this in terms of getting yourself backlinks. Um, and I mean, just honestly, the whole thing is just if I could sum up this whole conversation into one thing, it would be unless you're a web developer, you should probably pay for somebody to do
yeah,
some of these tasks, right?
yeah,
It can really fast forward these things, and you need to work on it too. You need to create content, but there are ways that you can do it faster. There are ways that you can make it more impactful by getting backlinks with journalists, and yeah,
ZocDoc.
eh,
ZocDoc's another good one.
ZocDoc.
ZocDoc.com.
Oh
ZocDoc.
yeah,
Yeah, so we
like
get a
the
lot of
the
we get a lot of so that's a lot of referrals that backlink into our website as well. So you can put your
oh.
stuff on there also. That's actually going for you to do, and I think it's free. So I think that's
Wait,
another good one. So
they can do it. They can book appointments and stuff there.
yes, they book appointments.
Oh,
So what happens is it's basically like a lead collector. So basically, you can say
okay.
your schedule, like here's my schedule, and they can be like, oh, we'll book a time for this time, right?
Yeah.
Especially if
I've
anybody
u
takes
I've
insurance, it's great for companies that have insurance, because for us, we can
yeah,
list like we take this, we take that, we take this, and like they'll book
yeah.
it too. So it's
I've used
usually
it
good.
I used it when I was trying to find a PCP when I got
Yeah,
here. It's been around for a while, yeah. Okay.
totally. So that's
I
another
didn't
one.
know they did that with PTs. That's great.
Heck yeah, yeah, they do. So it's perfect.
Nice.
That's another
All
one.
right, man. Well, a
Go.
lot of stuff packed into this episode. I know that that was just us riffing on one good story.
Yeah.
The cool part is we have really been doing a lot of work on building out our mentorship program. So if you had been there in the past, in the last few months ago, anything wasn't much on there. Now we're starting to develop some more modules. We're starting to develop things that not only for the brand new thinking about it, maybe a startup business owner, all the way to how do I scale this, right? How do I do it? Because that's where our special expertise lies, is making things bigger, right? In terms of the business. But at the same point, I mean, look at what Brian's done out of the back of his car. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things on there for any level of entrepreneur. And the best thing, I think, honestly, the best thing for the buck, $12 Q&A with us every week, right? You
Yeah.
get to ask us whatever you want. We actually talk about your business instead of some amorphous business. I don't know, but I love it. So it's in the show notes if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I just uploaded some stuff, new course. We have a course that I'm building, the business growth toolkit, which is just awesome value to help make people more money, right? So the idea basically is how to build. You can do this for building a side hustle within your practice in your clinic. You could build a whole, like, scale your business through here, start your own cash based practice, start your own insurance based practice. The whole thing will work right through here. So we'll keep adding more and more layers into this stuff. But to Owen's point, then honestly, today I just recorded, like, from our last podcast, we talked about was the sales script on how do you take my insurance and how to go through the whole step-by-step process, 25-minute lecture on how to do that. But then you can go do Q&A stuff on, like, I messed this part up. I don't understand. Why did they not buy here? And now you can go through the sales stuff with us, the sales training, which is like where as you know, is kind of like the thing that I love, that puzzle. So that is where I wish I had that ability, was to bounce that idea off of people when I started my business, is like, how did I miss this? What happened here? And most people will say, you can't land them all, right? But sometimes you can be like, hey, like, this is what I would do differently. Here's that mentorship. So that's the idea. The Q&A calls and what we're doing here is an awesome mentorship group for this.
Well, I'm telling you, Q&A calls work for me with you at least. All
Exactly,
right.
man.
So,
Exactly.
so with that, we are out, my friend. Have a great Thursday.
You too, buddy. See ya.
See ya.